So precision takes time, therefore precision is expensive. And that's why these V-blocks are extremely cheap, because they're not very precise. It's probably the cheapest set of V-blocks that money can buy. Overseas, fly cut, rougher than a cob V-blocks. Now, I don't have a set this size that are accurate, and what I'd like to do is at least get started turning this into a relatively precise set. Now, surprisingly, these are within a couple thousandths of each other, and for what you pay for them, that's pretty good. And you don't buy these with the intention of using them on your more jig bore. You buy them with the intention of using them on the drill press, potentially the milling machine. So, you get what you pay for. So, I have the tooling to turn these into something more accurate. I would like to increase their accuracy by 20 times, at least, get them within a couple tenths of each other. So, let's at least get started on this, because I don't have a set of V-blocks that are any good that are this size. And it's something that I want to do. So the first thing that I'm going to do with these is grind one side of them and establish a reference. And then I'm going to use that surface that I grind. Well, I'm going to flip them and grind the other side after I do the reference surface. Then I'll use that reference surface to mount to my other reference surface to do all the other sides, and I'll show you that as well. I got to set up all my stops and mark these so I don't forget which side's reference, although I'm not sure it'll actually matter. So. Oh.
Nice.
So man, that made a heck of a mess. That shot all over me, in my face, in my beard, on my toolbox, probably 3 gallons out on the floor. And the reason why this line came off is because, for one, it's not set up properly. When I turn off the coolant up here at the grinder head, it deadheads the pump. The output of that pump has nowhere to go. All that pressure builds in the line. That's a pretty stout little pump. And plus, what I was using was a compression fitting, a Teflon ferrule, which is pretty slippery in itself on plastic tubing. So once that pressure built in the line, when I shut off that valve, it just pushed this tubing right out of the fitting, and then we had a fountain of coolant. So what I'm going to do to, let me get you a little closer and show you these ferrules. So what I'm going to do, because I don't have the fittings that I need here, to do it the right way, I'm just going to put a bypass in here. That way a bit of the coolant always returns right back to the tank, and I'm going to use a brass ferrule instead of a Teflon ferrule. Ideally I should have an insert in this soft tubing to hold it, but I don't. So this should work. If it doesn't, we'll just spray the coolant out on the floor again. So now that I've got this face and this face nice and parallel with each other, nice and flat, I took the block, mounted it to my granite square that has the inserts in it. They're steel inserts. I'm indicating it in, making sure that it's really, really close, and that this surface here is proud of the top. That way I can set this block on the grinder because it has steel inserts in it. On the side that's on the plate right now, and on this side, I can grind this. I can flip this 90 degrees on the surface grinder, and then grind this surface here. Then I can take this off of the granite block, and then use those surfaces that I ground as reference on the mag chuck and ground in the other two. So that's how I plan to get all of these surfaces parallel and square with each other. So there it is, set up on the grinder. Now, some people may say you probably shouldn't use your granite on the grinder. As long as it's cleaned really well, I don't slide it around on any goop or grit, it's not going to hurt a thing. All my holes are blocked up. I can't think of any other reason why this would have metal plugs in it other than to hold down to a magnetic chuck. And plus, I don't do inspection work anyway, so it'll be fine. So this granite square was a gift from my buddy Andrew, who came down and helped me when I was sheeting the roof. A lot of you guys who watched those videos will remember him. He brought me this along with some other stuff that he had picked up in an auction school. And this thing was so dirty when I got it, this granite block, that I put it in a bucket of water to let it soak. It was so greasy and dirty that it probably took me an hour scrubbing it with a brush and dishwashing liquid till it came clean. So it's not in calibration, it's not some super precise piece, but it's perfect for this kind of work. And having those metal plugs embedded in it is awesome, because it, like you see, can be used on the mag chuck. It had to be custom ordered that way. Nice piece to have. Yeah. There we go. Tell Mommy to keep you safe. He'll be full grown in the next month. Next few weeks. So here's the setup that I'm going to use to grind the V's in the blocks. Now this is a sine vise, a grinding vise that is adjustable. It's got two rolls 4 inches apart. This is a stack of precision gauge blocks that have been to the 10th, which is plenty good enough. I mean, what are you going to ask yourself, how accurate does it need to be for your uses? And I'm not grinding optical glass, so this should be more than accurate enough. You could really set this up with a set of precision angles. You can buy those really cheap. But all this stuff can be had pretty cheap these days, especially the gauge blocks, where at one time, only big companies could afford a nice set of gauge blocks. Now, they're within the reach of most people. They're cheap. Overseas set of gauge blocks will do the majority of stuff that most of us are going to do. This sine vise, new for the shop. This was a gift from Joel and Tessa, the folks that come down from Colorado, that also brought the cast angle that I showed last week. He brought me this, he brought me this, he brought me that nice hand-forged bottle opener, and along with some drills and some tool steel drops. So I appreciate that. I'll get quite a bit of use out of this thing. So there we go. Should be plenty good enough for my needs. I'm gonna stick these in the vise, take them over to the grinder, dress them, flip them, should be done. So unfortunately, to grind this, I'm gonna have to change the wheel. The wheel that's on it's just not big enough. And I don't have any extra wheel hubs. I hate to take this off the hub because it grinds so well, but that's the way it goes, right? Get a wheel good balance, you want to leave it alone. Unless you only have one hub. I haven't yet made a wrench for this, or at least if I did, I don't remember making it. I sure don't know where it's at. This is what used to look crazy tight. Thank you, love. Appreciate that. I'm gonna drink my coffee first. I said I'm gonna drink my coffee first. More important. There are a few things better, in my opinion, than a really nice day outside. That you don't have to actually do anything, right? Your time is yours. Cup of coffee in the shop, it's nice. Doing setups that you enjoy. Now this, I've never ground a set of V-blocks before in my life, so this is the first set ever. I'm not saying this is how you do it, it's just a way to do it that I'm sure will work. Never got a great finish with that wheel that's on there. I have used it before. It worked fine for the needs that I have for these blocks. I'm sure it's probably a combination of the grinder and the person running it as to why. But grinding is a deep subject for sure. There's a lot to it. It's not just as simple as making some sparks and turning some handles. If you want really good stuff, it takes some skill. It's really nice to be able to use my equipment now. It feels so good to be able to just work in here with my machine and not have some big glaring hole that needs repaired. There's still a lot to do. I got to run wires to these machines, to this one, the drill press, because right now they're just draped across the floor. I have to run those in the attic. I'm going to pour this front pad, this section of front pad, probably at this fall, maybe sometime around then. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Finish this concrete out, and then probably pour an apron. Hoping, finances allow. If finances allow, an apron out in front of the shop, that would be so nice. Take a concrete apron with an awning over it, so you can pull a car up on there and work on it if you wanted to. And then potentially a little shed of some sort out back, not something elaborate, just somewhere to keep all my non-shop related tools like yard equipment and shovels and so on, so it doesn't clutter up my workspace. Got cabinets left to hang and you name it, siding left to do. Shop's nowhere near done, but it is good enough to use, and now I can do a little bit of everything. It's nice. It's nice to be there. It took a long time. So once I'm fed all the way up to the back of the block, it's really close to the edge of the grinding wheel. You could easily crash a setup like this. So I've got a 0 set on my dial that I just watch for each pass. But it wouldn't take much to run this whole setup into the edge of that grinding wheel, causing yourself some big problems. So now that I've got this side of the blocks matched, I can take these blocks, I can flip them, I can grind down to the same point, then I'll dress the wheel and flip them a couple more times, grinding down to the same point on each side. That way the V is centered in the block and then they both match. So that old one grinder is still more accurate than a milling machine. So these are nice. Probably within a couple tenths of each other. That's what I'm guessing. Nice matched set that are square and parallel on every face. So finish is not that great, but I never get a perfect finish on that grinder. So there we go. They just need a good deburring. Get some real meat hooks on them. So if you buy a set of V-blocks like that and you got a surface grinder, you can turn them into a decent user set. You can consider those V-blocks that you buy a kit. There you go. Turn them into a nice set.